What's up? Thanks for tuning in to the Heroic Industries Podcast number 2, the most heroic podcast in all of podcasting. If you didn't check the first one that will further identify the scope and what we're trying to do here, go ahead and do that. That's episode 1, and this is episode 2. So we will continue on with the idea that we are going to create the most heroic life possible. And so, something I've been thinking about that, like, I really like this branding, obviously, because it's mine. But I really like the term heroic. If you think about adjectives that describe you, right? Or things that you want to describe you, boring, mundane, average, mediocre, are those things that you want to define your life, right? Are those things that you want to, when you look back, define you and who you are? No, they're not. Anybody that says that I really strive to be average, even if that's what they want, they would never say that out loud. They really wouldn't, because nobody truly wants that. That's legitimately giving up, right? That's accepting mediocrity. That's settling. That to me is the scariest thing of all time. It's not the fear of failure, at least for me. It's not the fear of failure. It's the fear of being so average that you really don't matter at all. It's like, I'd rather be terrible. At least then you get attention for being terrible, I guess. But anyway, so heroic. Why do I like that so much? Because it really defines an above average life, right? And like, you are heroic, like truly heroic. And that word just kind of gets people fired up. Even that, when you look at media, right? The Avengers, hero movies, comic book heroes have been popular forever because of this, right? Because of everyone wants to be heroic, and everyone identifies with different heroes, different archetypes, right? So this is no different. So, but this is now taking that idea, taking that like subconscious desire to be heroic, to live heroic. And then now how do we apply it, right? And how do we apply it in context, right? So, something else that kind of jumps to mind is like, people refer to first responders as heroes. And a lot of times, like, I hear that and I go, man, I sit in parking lots most of the day and check prices on cryptocurrency lately. So how heroic is that? So you don't feel, it's like that imposter syndrome. Like, man, I really don't feel very heroic right now, especially at a climate that everybody hates the cops. Like, you go from being, told you're a hero to being told you're a worthless piece of shit, every day for a year straight. It doesn't do much for your confidence or the fact that you even want to live a heroic life, let alone go out and have an adventure at work. Like, that's the last thing I want to do. But so really kind of taking that space back and saying, what does this mean? What is this idea of being a hero? What does this mean to me? And defining it. And hopefully that's what we'll be able to do here, is further define what it means to live heroic and to build the heroic life that you signed up for. Because let's be honest, like, nobody signed up for this job to be an average, mediocre, run of the mill, hope I make it through cop. You joined for a reason, and as naive as it might have been, and maybe it's time to dust some of those ideas off and really revisit them. Okay. Regardless of where you're at in your career. So anyway, I guess that's a recap of episode number 1, but we did cover some other stuff. So make sure you go check it out. We talked about some movement patterns and some educational stuff with like workouts and sled drags and sled carries and that kind of stuff. So I'm not going to regroup that today, but you're definitely going to want to check it out. So, all right. A little bit of news here. I don't know if you guys check out social media, but I'm going to screen share this. Boom. This officer Officer Silvester here. Really, really funny. So I don't know if you guys check out TikTok or if you watch Instagram. I saw it on Instagram, but this video, after what LeBron said about police officers and such from that Columbus-based shooting, and then he obviously doxed that Columbus officer, which is total bullshit. Hashtag accountability, but this is worth playing again. So I'm just going to let it play.
I've arrived at that disturbance. We have LeBron call my cell phone right away, please. Thank you. Excuse me, sir. Excuse me. No, can you put the knife down, please, sir? Sir, no, sir, don't stab it. No, stop stabbing. Stop. Oh, hold on. It's LeBron. LeBron, hey, yeah, it's me again. Listen, I'm out here at this disturbance call, and there's a guy trying to stab another guy with a knife. What do you think I should do? Why does that matter? Okay, well, they're both black. One guy's trying to stab another guy with a knife. Deadly force is completely justified. I see. So you don't care if a black person kills another black person, but you do care if a white cop kills a black person, even if he's doing it to save the life of another black person? I mean, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but then again, you are really good at basketball, so I guess I'll take your word for it. All right. Yep. Okay. All right. Thanks, LeBron. Michael Jordan's the GOAT. What? Nothing. I gotta go. Sorry, guys. You're on your own. Good luck. Dispatch, I've arrived at that disturbance. We have LeBron.
Unbelievable. So anyway, that officer was actually suspended for that, right? Suspended. And I thought it was like false information at first. I had to do some double checking on it, but he was actually, I don't know what department he works for, but he was suspended without pay based on that video. So that's a pretty harsh penalty for a social media violation, right? That's a real harsh penalty for that. That doesn't make any sense at all to me, right? To me. So with that said, he started a GoFundMe, or somebody did. I'm not sure on the exact details of how it got started, but there is a GoFundMe that was for him at first, right? And it has since made tons and tons of money. I think that that Officer Tatum was behind some of that. If you don't follow him, like, make sure you do that. He's a great resource, great insight, former police officer. He's got some podcasts, very, very active on social media. So he was, I think, somewhat involved with some of this, but or maybe he just pushed it. Either way, they made a shitload of money, right? So after it made X amount of money, then he transitioned to, all right, this is now going to be a fund for other officers that are dealing with anything, right? Or, victims of shootings and all kinds of stuff, like whatever the specific details are on that. But that's where the money is going now for the GoFundMe. So I will post a link to that to continue to get that promoted. So check that out. And again, that video is definitely worth a watch, right? Definitely worth a watch. All right. Okay. Moving on. Movement pattern of the week. Let's talk about this. So I took some time this week, actually like the last month or so, and really kind of dug into movement patterns within the job of law enforcement. So talked to a lot of different cops that I know that train a lot, that are really good with either CrossFit or powerlifting, or a combination of different modalities, jiu-jitsu, that kind of stuff, and said, hey, what are some, like, if you had to pick your top three movement patterns of law enforcement, right? So top three movements that would be, squats, presses, thrusters, kettlebell swings, like whatever, what would they be? And then I started really looking at more videos, like dash cams are available. Anytime you open up social media, there's one more dash cam of a police action shooting or a critical incident or something, right? That is going to show you the mechanics of what we do on the job, right? Show you the mechanics of what we do on the job. And then we can make it a little bit more empirical, and we can make it like a little bit less conjecture, right? So there's a lot of tactical based programs that are out there, but they really aren't based in anything other than what whoever wrote them is biased towards, right? So Matt Winning does a lot of work with like firefighters and some cops, and he's, you know, a world champion power lifter. But if you look at his program, which is very good, by the way, I did some of it about a year or two ago. But anyway, so he's a power lifter. His programming looks like powerlifting. You know, like I've written programs. I'm basically a CrossFitter, you know, primarily, or at least was when I was writing these programs. And this was previous programs, not current ones. So they looked a lot more like CrossFit. So if you again, like jujitsu, you get a jujitsu coach is going to have a lot of shit that looks like jujitsu, right? So it's going to be biased based on what you do, because that's what your world is, that's what you know. But it's less important what you're doing, but more how you're doing it. You know, like like Julian from StrongFit talks about, and that's where it's like, listen, I think we need to really organize our thoughts a little bit more on what movements are important within police training, within the job. Like, what do we actually do? And then regardless if you're going to use sandbags or barbells, it doesn't really matter. These are the movement patterns that you're, and the archetypes and the lifts that you're going to need to do. Now, how you do that is really kind of like up to you or your coach or the biases of whatever program you're checking out. But we've got to identify the movements first, right? And we can do that through video, right? Technology is everywhere now. So basically, I went through and identified the movement patterns in the following, you know, critical law enforcement movements: squatting, pressing, pulling, traversing, meaning running, dragging, that walking, that kind of stuff, and getting up off the ground, or get ups. So we have those 5 different categories, and inside those categories we have different movements, you know, much like the CrossFit 9 essential movements. So a lot of it looks like that, but it's hard to get away from or change a squat pattern. Like, a squat pattern is important for basically everything. And even in CrossFit, they talk about, like, you know, our needs vary by degree, not type, right? And that's true of professions as well, right? So what they talk about is, you know, like your needs of the needs of your grandmother are the same as the needs of an Olympic athlete. They just vary by degree. You know, an Olympic athlete might have to power clean, you know, 400 pounds, but your grandmother does not need to power clean 400 pounds, but she does need to be able to bring something up to her shoulders from the floor, which is in essence a power clean. So vary by degree. The same is true of law enforcement. Now, we do have some different applications of that, and I'll show you that in just a second. Kind of, you know, an example of what we're looking at. But some stuff that I added in on top of, you know, just what you would think from the regular CrossFit are things like pulling and pushing, which we talked about last week. You know, you have to be able to pull and push and run. If you can't run on this job, you are a hazard, right? And you don't have to like be a flat out, you know, 100-meter dash sprinter or you know, a marathoner, but you do have to be able to have an aerobic capacity, and running is a very simple way to do it, to build that aerobic base. But you also have to be able to sprint and transition and powerfully pull and push things and people and objects and carry things. And so traversing across distances is critical for the job. I think everybody can agree on that, but we have to incorporate that, and we have to treat it like a skill. We can't just say go run. We have to treat it like a skill, and we'll have more blocks on that in the future. Getting up off the ground. This is one that is not really in anything other than certain kettlebell courses that I've found, but we have to be able to do this, right? So when you're talking about training physically, creating a physical structure for the job, if you neglect getting up and down off the floor, then you are doing yourself a massive disservice and putting yourself in incredible risk, right? And it's one of those things that we take for granted. We don't appreciate the ability to get up and down off of the floor, okay? Until you lose it. So think about in your department, or, you know, if you're not a cop, think about in your life, right? Who you come in contact with. Think about individuals that you see that cannot get up off the ground without assistance. And I'm telling you, I have seen officers that cannot get into a kneeling position to qualify with a firearm without assistance. And it was so bad, a few years back, that they had to qualify that you can't get help getting up and down off the floor. Okay. And we've had officers that have had to set their firearms down to get up off the floor and then pick their guns up and then usually move about 30 pounds of fat out of the way and then holster up. Right. That's totally insane. Right. For a multitude of reasons. Number one, you're a hazard on the range and off the range. If you fall down on the job, you're not going to be able to get back up, and you're not going to be able to get out of the way, and you're not going to be able to do anything that you need to other than roll around like a turtle, which is really bad, really bad. And to go along with that, like you can probably correlate, I would imagine, I don't have numbers on this, but if you cannot get up and down off the ground, you're probably obese, and that needs to be addressed, obviously, for everyone knows why, right? So let's kind of like take a more big picture view as well. Now let's think beyond the job, right? Because I think it's really important to focus on things outside the profession too. Like, we're not going to be cops forever. You're going to transition into other parts of your life, and what do you want those parts of your life to be like? If you can't get up and down off the floor without assistance, how long do you think you're going to be on your own before you're put into a nursing home? Not that long. When we retire, the average cop dies after 5 years anyway. So how long do you want to be be able to be on your own, live under your own power, if you can't even get up and down from a kneeling position, let alone all the way up and down after you've fallen down or tripped and fell, and like, can you get yourself even back up off the floor? This is not even a conversation that we should be having for law enforcement. But if we're not training it, then it's like, okay, well, can you really blame them? It hasn't been part of any curriculum that anyone's taught for police officers. You just got to be able to get your ass down to the floor and back up without assistance. That needs to be a skill that we work on. And even when you look at basic gymnastics movements, that a main skill is being able to sit down and stand up without your hands. Now, that it's usually like 5-year-olds that they teach that to, but when we don't practice skills for decades, they go away, right? So we got to be able to bring them back, and you got to practice it, but you got to know where to practice it and where to start with it. So again, if we don't bring this to the forefront of like, hey, you're 55 years old, you're 20 pounds overweight, and your knees hurt, right? So if we get 20 pounds off of you, your knees will hurt less. But I got to be able to get you to get up off the floor from a seated position all the way to standing as quickly as possible. And then I also got to be able to have you do that with an external load of at least a firearm, if not a firearm, a belt, a vest, boots, etc. Okay, so you got to be able to do that. That's a critical skill that we have. So let's see if I can not mess this up this time. Got one more video. Screen share. There we go. And all right, this is an example of what I'm talking about. All right, so this is a great video. I'm not exactly sure what city, but you can see that he exits his squad car and engages a perpetrator in a gunfight. He ends up hitting the dirt, and you'll see what happens. This is a fantastic job. Great reload, great muzzle discipline. You see the AR mag down on the ground there. All right, so before we get into the movements, now what we saw here, right, as soon as he got out of the car, run it back. Okay. As soon as he gets out of the car, right here. Boom. All right. Okay, so right here, he's rolled to his side. He just got shot. Okay, so I don't know exactly where or with what, but either way, he just got freaking shot. Okay, so he either fell down or jumped out of the way, or a combination of both. Who knows? Either way, he's laying down on his back. Right, he is on his back, and he's looking and acquiring a target, which is actually, if you ever get in that spot, remember you can shoot under cars. A lot of people forget that, but that's a very viable way to assess a target. If you shoot somebody like that in the ankles, they're going to have a hard time firing back at you. Anyway, I digress. So he's on his side. He's got to get back up, or he's going to get killed, right? So that's how critical this skill is. He's going to have to get his ass back up and get back into the fight immediately, or that guy's going to flank him. He's going to get shot with a rifle right in the face. Okay, so you can see he rolls to his knee. He uses his knees to push up, and he immediately engages, right? You can tell he did not use his hands much. He might have used his offhand to push up off the ground and then right back into the fight. But you can see he's utilizing both hands. So he was not like firing one here and trying to do some weird stuff like that. Like, he pushed up, got to his knees, got both hands on his gun so he could get a good target, right? And then he goes and engages and wins that gunfight. So good on him. But you can see how that plays out. Like, you have to be able to have that skill of very simply just getting up and down off the floor and off the ground. All right. I'm going to get into. All right, here we go. So here are some ways to train this movement, right? So these are all different variations of get-ups, right? A get-up is just anything getting up and down off the ground. So here's a couple. And we'll see here. All right, so this is just sitting down and standing up off the floor with no hands. And there's a bunch of different ways to do it, but this is the most basic, simple way. You just solve the problem however you need to, right? So you can see, there you go, right? And then we go to sit up here. And this is something that we train on our department, is the tactical get up, right? And if you've taken Krav Maga or anything like that, like the tactical get up, you can see the left hand is up and it's going to come back through. Like, you can do a better job than I did here, but keeping that up if you're actually in a fight so you don't get clocked in the face. And then you can use that to transition to and from, jujitsu, that kind of stuff. So you can see it's very based in ground fighting. Obviously, it's part of ground fighting. So that's your tactical get up, and you stand up. There you go. Okay. Next variation is going to be a sandbag get up. So here you just roll to your side, and it looks very similar to. Let me get over here, run that back just a hair. Okay, so if you look at the position here, right, and then you go back to the video previous, then that officer rolls to his side, right? Rolls to his side to kind of like collect himself and find some power in his leverages, right? So it's the same way you're going to train that get up. You're going to roll to your side, pull it onto your shoulder, and then pick your foot up, just like the tactical get up. Boom, hip comes up, knee slides through, and then you just stand it up, right? There are parts and components to this. You can see I'm kind of doing it slightly segmented. That's for a reason. So I'll post in the notes the different breakdowns of like the mechanics and the positions and how to do it, step 1, step 2, step 3. But if you can't get it, here's the good thing about a sandbag get up is just solve the problem. You'll figure it out. You might fall down, you might drop the bag a couple times or the object or whatever. But sandbag get ups don't have to be super technical. All you do is just lay down with the sandbag, put it on your shoulder, and figure out a way to solve the problem. You can use your hands, legs, arms, whatever. Just try not to drop sandbags, stand up straight, and then sit back down. And then you'll end up figuring out the most efficient way to do it over time. So don't stress out if you can't get it, or it's not working, or it's confusing, or you're worried about the specific positions. Don't. Just pick up a sandbag and stand it up and set it down. Okay, here's the next one is Turkish get up. All right, this one is slightly more technical. Kettlebell. but you're going to punch up, roll to that seated position, hip drives up, knee slides through, and then you're going to stand it all the way up, and then you're halfway done, right? And then you're going to go all the way back down. Okay. Leg slides through again and all the way back down the floor. If you're going to mess that one up, it's going to be right there, right? So make sure that you don't get lazy with that. If you're going to try a Turkish get up with a kettlebell, you can do it with anything, sandbags, whatever. Make sure that you don't get lazy on the way back down. That is where the kettlebell is going to smack you in the face and you're going to lose some teeth. Not selling the movement real well, but I've never seen anybody do that, honestly. But I've seen some close calls. So don't get lazy. Remember, where are most traffic accidents? Within a mile from your house. As you get back to the floor, you're gonna want to like give up and try to like bring it down. Don't. Lay down, stabilize, bring it down under control, roll to your side, and then eject the kettlebell from there. Okay. But those are your three. Those are your three. You got a couple different kinds of. So you've got your get-ups with no weight. You've got your sandbag get up, you got Turkish get up, and as you can see based on the video, the real world application of this is hypercritical. This is absolutely a critical skill to have as a law enforcement officer, is to be strong in that position. Again, not just to be able to do it, but to be able to do it under stress, with strength, with load, right? And then all kinds of benefits that you're going to get from that. It's like an old school strongman move is the roots of it, right? And it used to be, if you were like an old school strongman competitor, like the circus dumbbells and the curly mustaches and stuff, they wouldn't even let you like do some of the movements until you could do a Turkish get up with I think what I read was like body weight or something. But if you can Turkish get up your body weight, like you are one strong motherfucker, like period. That shit is hard, right? So that was a 44-pound kettlebell. If you're going to do reps, and you're strong, a 53 isn't a bad way to go. But even that, like you're going to fry out pretty quick. So very, very good real world application of that. All right. Workout of the week. So after last week, I was approached and said, hey, it would be nice to have like not just examples, but how we can use it. Like what's the type of workout we can do with sleds and stuff like that. So this week, let's do the workout of the week. Is going to be 5 rounds, run a 400, and then do 5 get-ups per side. That can be Turkish get-up, sandbag get-up. If you're going to do just a stand-up, a no weight get-up, just a body weight get-up, then I would say do at least 10 per side and switch legs, like which leg you go down kneeling on, switch legs 10 and 10. And then take 2 minutes of rest between, especially if you're doing weight, right? If you're doing weighted, then 2 minutes rest you're going to need in between. And with the running, really try to keep those splits even. Okay. Keep the splits even. So what that means is you shouldn't be plus or minus, right? 5 seconds, I would say 5 seconds for a 400. If you can keep them plus or minus 5 seconds, you're doing well, right? So you don't want to do one in 60 seconds, which is really fast, especially for a workout. And then your next split for round 2, you're down to 80 seconds. And then round 3, it just becomes a total nightmare, and it's a jog, and it's like 2 minutes, 3 minutes to get done. It's not the point, right? So if you can keep like a 90-second split for each one, and then hit your 5 get-ups per side, take 2 minutes rest and stay consistent. That's what we want out of our intervals, is consistency over time, right? Over the entire body of the workout, not really hard and then like fall off the edge of the world and we're real crappy. So just keep that in mind. All right. That's all I got for today. Working on getting some guests for said podcast here. So if you got people that you would like to see, let me know. And last thing I'm going to talk about is the Heroic Industries Network. Heroic Industries Network is a mighty network for just what we've talked about already. It is a law enforcement network for support and training, as well as courses and coaching, right? So I'm working on several courses. We just started our 30-day shred, and it's a specific course designed for weight loss and kind of recompositioning your body to be a more effective and better looking tactical athlete. All right. So that's all I got for today, guys. Until next time, live heroic, and hopefully I can get some of this stuff edited out so it doesn't completely suck. And maybe I can, maybe I can't, but either way. All right. Later.